And blessings. How are you doing? How are you doing, brother Conrad?
Doing excellent. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great. Doing great. Hey, this is an interesting show. It's a combination Beach Brothers show, Hampton Roads Black Caucus Business Meetup, and the Get On Code show. So this one is definitely going to be one for the books. Beach Brothers, HRBC, Get On Code, one
Three
show.
times three.
Look, brother, why don't you start off today with your podium?
Would love to. I would love to. Now, we're in the thick of the Hampton Roads political season, and while we're running the stream team here with the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, bringing all the important politicians together, we want to hear all their thoughts as well. But we're not going to just focus just on politicians. So we're going to be bringing on our special guest tonight. But my podium is going to sort of take us right back to the topic at hand for the past year or so, and that's COVID. And I do request that all of you turn the COVID odds in your favor. Be proactively engaged with self-protection. In regard to your immune system, I say be a cheater and get an advantage on the SARS-CoV-2 virus before your body is introduced to it without protection. And I use the terms cheat and advantage simply because fighting a war with the virus need not be as fair as letting it infect you first and then developing antibodies to kill it. As we've seen since February 2020, with 42.3 million COVID cases and 697,000 deaths in the United States, COVID's not being fair with us. So there's no need to be a good sport and let it have its chance with you. For an ounce of prevention, I say get yourself vaccinated against the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Here's something to ponder. The average cost of a COVID hospital stay is over $17,000. The average cost of a round of COVID vaccination is free. And I took the Moderna mRNA vaccine. mRNA vaccines are a newer science, an injectable cocktail that teaches our cells how to make a protein of SARS-CoV-2, and it triggers an immune response in our bodies recognizing it. If the SARS-CoV-2 virus is the 2007 New York Jets, then the COVID mRNA vaccine is a videotaping staff who records the Jets' defensive play calls and gives those calls to our bodies. And our bodies are, in this case, the 2007 New England Patriots coach, Bill Belichick. With these vaccines, we're giving our bodies an advanced playbook on SARS-CoV-2, tipping the balance in our favor, greatly reducing the chances that SARS-CoV-2 can develop into a full-blown COVID and an expensive hospital stay or much less death. These vaccines do not contain eggs or gelatin or latex or preservatives. They're famously hard to preserve anyway. They're so fragile that they need to be kept at very cold temps. They're free of metals like iron, nickel, cobalt, lithium, or rare earth elements. They also don't include anything that might track you electronically. They also contain your key to reducing your hospitalization risk even before you're exposed to COVID-2. Now, for those 42.3 million US cases, there's been roughly 3 million COVID hospitalizations. That's about 7%. And for COVID deaths, that's about 1.6% of all cases. And from January 1st through August 30th of 2021, roughly 99% of hospitalizations were those who were not fully vaccinated. As of August 30th, the 1.6 million 2021 COVID hospitalized Americans included 10,471 who were fully vaccinated. So that's 0.65%. So yes, it's still possible for the 2007 New York Jets to beat the 2007 New England Patriots when the Pats know the Jets plays, but it's a mathematical insignificance so low that you should take those free shots and run with it like Randy Moss on a go route. I say all this as I am reminded of a local Virginia Beach activist. She's been a prominent fixture at school board meetings and council meetings, pushing hard against state vaccine mandates and mass mandates in schools. As recently as April, she had a profile picture smiling with the words, "I have an immune system." As I read my podium right now, she's in a Norfolk ICU bed suffering from COVID pneumonia. She just got a batch of monoclonal antibodies several days after severe symptoms brought her to said hospital because monoclonal antibodies are in such high demand. Now, for the record, monoclonal antibodies helped President Trump get over his case of COVID last year. They are a laboratory-produced protein that acts like antibodies made by our immune systems. They bind to a specific molecule of SARS-CoV-2, the antigen, enhancing or restoring the body's immune system. Now, to put it simply, these cloned antibodies are not my immune system. They're synthetic supplements to the immune system. So, to use another sports metaphor, like if the Jets fall down 38-17 against the Patriots in the second quarter, they get to add LaDainian Tomlinson, Reggie Wayne, James Harrison, Champ Bailey, and Ed Weed to their team at halftime. They're also what's known as the pound of cure. Remember, the average COVID hospital stay costs more than a brand new Volkswagen Jetta. And it's worth noting, she also asked the doctors if she could get the COVID vaccine while suffering from COVID right there in the hospital. Sadly, it doesn't work like that. The body needs weeks to generate a proper immune response from a vaccine. And being severely sick with COVID won't help that. I can't help but sit and think about the idea of trusting one's immune system alone on this matter and not having faith in our own science's ability to fight for you. To do so for many months, and then in a painful 11th hour, want the vaccine and a monoclonal boost to your body. In those months, we heard so many stories of the same exact situation, people wishing in their sick beds that they had gotten the vaccine beforehand and wishing for it right there in their beds. Those stories provided all the forewarning a person needed to take care of their own vaccination. But all too often, a story about COVID vaccination was muted, like a nuisance reminder of it during a sports radio show while driving. The great Virginia Beach activist had the opportunity, like we all had, to get the vaccine. She decided, as we are all free to do, against doing so. Her personal decision is now further taxing our health system and our heroic frontline workers. I wish her very well. I want her to get out of this safely. But I also wish you, Beachies, and other great viewers of Hampton Roads Blackhawks channel and the Get On Code, that I want you to cheat the game, turn the immune odds all the way in your favor, and get vaccinated. And that's my podium.
Intriguing. I guess just for proper form, I have to say that the HRBC is not pushing the vaccine.
That's my
podium.
Yeah.
That's his podium. That's Conrad's podium. My podium is a little different. I want everyone to know that when you cast your ballot in November, on the gubernatorial line item, there will be 3 candidates all over VA. They're on the screen: McAuliffe, Blanding, and Youngkin. Now, we had Youngkin on our show a little earlier. He was on our show, and he had a great discussion with us. So if you're interested in learning about Youngkin, you can check out the Beach Brothers. You can check out the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, because we did a interesting interview. Blanding, we interviewed Blanding months ago. She'll be coming on the show soon, hopefully. And McAuliffe, we've been asking, and I really believe McAuliffe's going to end up on the show as well, because we want to make sure that everybody knows that you have 3 choices. You have 3 choices. And you don't have to vote for the lesser of 2 evils. And that's my podium. Okay, so Brother Conrad, we've had some comments already. We are already going to say this front forward. If you have a comment, ask the comment, post it in the chat. We're going to, no one has to know you got vaccinated.
Mr. Jeff Staples.
Okay.
Former guest of the show.
Yeah, I like Jeff. Salute Jeff. All right, so if you have a question, you have a comment, definitely type it in the chat. We're definitely going to work with you. And now, I'm honored to say, if I had a drum, I would make a drum roll. If I was a human beatbox, I would make a beatbox. Conrad, why don't you do our great guest some justice with your introduction?
Absolutely, absolutely. Right before I bring in the bio, I do want to mention that Princess was in the news this week because she did make her presence felt at that debate by interrupting it and made some news for that. So I'm glad she was able to make herself known much more to the state. Now, for tonight's guest is Yasmine Charles, who is a native of Haiti, a United States Navy veteran, an author, a trained chef, a Norfolk State University alumna, and a former school teacher. She's been featured on PBS for a Women's History Month documentary. As a culinary educator, she inspires others to have a better relationship with food. As an author, she empowers motherless and fatherless daughters around the world to rise above cultural tradition, the condition of their births, find their voices, and rewrite their own legacies. When Yasmine's not in the kitchen cooking, you'll find her advocating for Haitian migrants and for homeless veterans.
Yes.
She enjoys hot yoga and running outdoors, and she's here tonight to chat with us. So, Miss Yasmine, how are you tonight?
I am feeling great. How are you? Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you. I'm really excited to just have a little chit chat about what's going on in our lives and in our world and how we can make it better.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great. We definitely want to salute and promote the work that you're doing in the community and your business.
Thank
You're
you.
a published author.
Yeah.
That has a great book. Is it best-selling yet?
We're working on it. Matter of fact, I just spoke to my publisher today about the title change. Let me tell you why. Yesterday, I went to my city council before my Mayor Alexander, and the rest of the members to speak on behalf of the Haitian community here in Hampton Roads. And as I was driving home, the new title came to me, and it's The Cost of Living the American Dream. And of course, the title now is Shut Up and Look Cute, Diary of a Homeless Soul. I talk about my life in Haiti and moving to America and, experiencing abuse and deportation myself and, just living in a very dysfunctional family and then join the military to travel the world. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. And so with the border crisis, happening to the Haitians, I thought my story was just perfect, really, because it really explains that there is a cost, there's a price we pay for pursuing the American dream. And for me personally, it cost me my childhood and growing up without the love and the affection of my mother. It cost me, having to experience abuse. So it's not just about financial success and wealth, but for most of us migrants who come particularly from Black countries like Africa, Nigeria, Jamaica, we do pay the price because we all received here in America very differently. So that's going to be my new title: The Cost of the American Dream. That's the new title.
It's a great title.
Wow.
Yeah.
To think that, there's a cost to a dream.
Yes.
Now, that makes sense.
Mhm.
That makes perfect sense.
Yes.
But when we think of the American dream, we think of, apple pie and white picket fences.
That's right.
And everything is just dandy. But to think that there's a price that needs to be paid is intriguing.
It is.
Would you say that most immigrants, not just Haitian immigrants, but most immigrants pay a price to reach the American dream?
Absolutely. Think about it. Let's talk with the family. For me, oftentimes somebody's going to have to leave the house, whether mom and dad. So sometimes as a child, you grow up without your mom, you grow up without your siblings. You are being displaced. You leave your culture, your language, everything that you know to adjust to being in America. And then when you come here, you will face discrimination. You will face, people looking at you differently because you haven't adjusted to the American way of life yet. So there's a cost to it. Absolutely. It's not just the picket fence and, like you said, the apple pie. For us coming from other countries, we have to learn how to balance between our culture and the American culture, and but for me, I've found a way to bring all that together, and I've been able to carve out my life here in Hampton Roads, and I love it. So yes.
Now, I sort of want to touch on the beginning, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, because I love the idea of just sitting here and talking about your life story, but it has a beginning.
Yes.
So if you would, talk to us about being from Haiti. I've never so much as went south of Orlando, Florida. So tell us about your history of Haiti and some history of Haiti.
Sure. Okay. So in order for people to really understand our culture, the people of Haiti, our poverty, and where we are now, you must, first of all, understand our history. Haiti is a little island about 200 miles from Jamaica. We are the very first Black republic, meaning we were the very first nation to gain our independence from slavery. Haiti originally was... the island itself belongs to the Native Americans, and the French colonized the island, and they brought African slaves to the island to work on both sugar and coffee plantations. Now, at the time, Haiti was producing 60% of the world's coffee and 40% of the world's sugar. So we were really, how do I say this? France and America were really banking on us. So now, forward some years later, in the late 1700s, there was this man named Toussaint Louverture, who was a free man, a Haitian general, who led the Haitian Revolution, which was a slave revolt. And because of that, we became a free nation. And as a result of our freedom, the Louisiana Purchase took place, because what happened was Napoleon, who was a French military leader at that time, own about 15 states within the U.S. And so after losing the island, after losing Haiti, he felt that there was no use for him to hold on to those states. And so he made a deal with Thomas Jefferson for $15 million. And that's how America became the U.S. that it is today, because of the Haitian Revolution. And we call this the Louisiana Purchase. But most history books leave that information out. About how the Haitian Revolution was the direct cause of the Louisiana Purchase. So here we are.
Yeah, God bless America. God bless Haiti, because America wouldn't be America without Haiti. And that part keeps getting left out. But America keeps turning its back on Haiti as well. Yes.
Well, this is how I'm going to actually quote something from Mr. Douglass, who was once the ambassador to Haiti, Mr. Frederick Douglass. He said, America is punishing Haiti because we are Black and because we dare to be free. And if the Haitians can be free, then other Blacks will believe that they can be free and be successful. So for a long time throughout history, Haitians, what we did was a threat to France and to Africa. So even so now to this day, we are paying the price. Now, of course, yes, we hate America, and France have their parts to blame, but we also have our own, we need to own where we are now as a nation. I'm just going to tell you, because I grew up on that island. And so Haiti has had a history. We've had 70 dictators. We have a history of corruption. We have a history of instability. We have a history of, natural disasters. And so every time we have something like an earthquake or hurricane happen, we end up having to have our hands out to the world and say, help us, because we don't have a functioning government. We have men who get into power and all they see is themselves in their pocket. We don't have the three branches of government like we do here in America. So we have our own issues within our own selves to deal with, because our leaders do not think about the people first. They see their pockets. So that's one of Haiti's many, many problems.
Could you touch on your immigration history, specific to the United States and Haiti, good and bad trials and tribulations?
All right. Well, from Personally, I came to the U.S. when I was 12 years old. My father and his wife, they brought me to the U.S. And so I didn't have anything to do with the whole process. However, when I turned 27, at that time, I became a naturalized citizen, and I was able to sponsor my mom to the U.S. And it was a very easy process for me. And I credit my time in the military for that easy, smooth transition. But I cannot speak for all other immigrants, because I have heard stories of how the immigration system really makes it harder, especially for immigrants who are from, places like Haiti and in Africa. So, but for me, I've never had a bad experience with them, again, because I was in the military when I was working with them. So that's really all I can say at this time.
Could you also touch on your comments recently at Norfolk City Council and what drove you to want to talk on it?
Yes. So as you know, we have a crisis at the border involving the Haitian migrants, and of course it affected me personally, not because I'm from Haiti, but also because I too experienced deportation 20 years ago or so by the people who were responsible for me. Now, I have never really talked about this verbally. I've talked about it in my book. I was deported back to Haiti because I had the audacity to speak up for myself. My parents brought me here to America to be the help in the house, which is something that comes from the Haitian culture. Typically, if you grow up poor and if there's a relative who's living elsewhere in the country or overseas, typically they will send you to go live with them in exchange for housing and food for education. And so when I came here, I was like, I did not leave my mother's house to be mistreated. I did not come here to be a maid in the house. And so because I stood up for myself, they sent me back. And what saved me was my leaders, my heroes, I should say, my school teachers and my principals who spoke up for me. And I was brought back to America. That happened to me when I was about 16 years old. And so with that experience, that trauma of knowing that I wasn't wanted, that I was rejected, it really pushed me out of the house. And so by the age of 21, I really wanted a way out. And so I joined the military for 8 years. And so looking at those pictures of the Haitians being deported, it really brought back some emotions that I just did not want to feel. But looking at this now, I realized that 20 years later, I was going to need that experience of being deported in order for me to become the voice for our Haitian migrants. And here we are today. So.
Yeah, we have on screen here a little bit of that and of yourself.
Yes.
And recent interview.
Absolutely.
Now, you're a great voice actually for the local Haitian community here. And I would like you to touch on that for a little bit, specifically the 757 Haitian community and how you're helping to grow that and be a cheerful voice for it.
Sure. So the Haitians here in this area, we're particularly either prior military or current military. And there are some migrants who come directly from Haiti, but for the most part, most of us are military related. And so, matter of fact, just this past Sunday, I had a meeting with just 5 of us women, one of which just came here from Haiti 2 months ago. And I created a meetup group. And my goal is for us to create a support group where we not only will we socialize and volunteer in the area, but I really want us to how do I say this? Help welcome the migrants who are already here and also welcome the ones who will come in the future. And I want the people in this area to know that there is a Haitian community right here in Hampton Roads who are making a difference. So, yes.
I love hearing about that. And
thank you.
I love hearing about your association with the 757 itself. I would like to touch on that just a little bit more and hear your history of life in the 757. Both good and bad. What NSU was like, and do you still go to NSU football games? And tell us about your journey with the culinary arts around here.
Okay, so let's begin with first of all, when I was in the Navy, I was stationed here for 3 years after I was transferred here from Japan. So my first 3 years was overseas in Sasebo, Japan. Then I was here as a Navy cook for an admiral for 3 years, and then I went to California for 2 with the Marines. And after leaving the military for 8 years, I wanted to go to an HBCU. So I picked Norfolk State, and that's how I ended up back here. And I've been in Virginia now for about 11 years, and I love it. I love the people. I love the weather. Coming originally from New York, well, my second home really, I did not want to go back to the cold. And I just feel like in Virginia, I really love the Southern hospitality. And it's my home now. And so I went to Norfolk State and I studied nutrition and food science because I was really curious about really having a deeper understanding about food. I have a culinary arts degree from New York. This was before I joined the military. I worked as a pastry chef in Manhattan. And so when I enlisted, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was in the kitchen as well as I did some admin in the military. And one of the joys of being in the service is apart from doing your primary job, you also do collateral duty. So I had some time to work in the office and work in finances. And so, you know, I'm an interdisciplinarian in a way. And so after college, after Norfolk State, I taught nutrition and culinary education at Stratford University for 3 years until we closed in 2019. And so, food, nutrition education is my passion. And so even after we shut it down permanently, I decided to start my own cooking show. And so I teach the same concepts now on YouTube. I teach culinary techniques. I talk about nutrition education, and I also talk about food history. So you're welcome to check me out on YouTube. It's called Yasmine's Cooking Show. And right now we're teaching on poultry.
And
I love it.
Yes.
I hate hearing about this right now because I'm fasting today. I'm doing intermittent fasting to
Are
cut back
you?
a little bit of pounds. It's just, but you hear about some great food, and I'm like, I get hungry again. So
Lovely.
Okay.
Lovely.
Okay, bye, boy. Boy, bye. Hey, we do have a question, but I definitely wanted to salute the Norfolk State Spartans.
Yes.
Behold.
Yes.
Norfolk State Spartans.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm a Hamptonian,
Okay.
but both of my children are Spartans right now, and Norfolk State employed me at one point, so I do have a lot of love for the
That's
Green
wonderful.
Dogs.
Matter of fact, Hampton's homecoming game will be against Norfolk State on the 2nd of October.
Yeah, so that's
Yes.
where I'm going to have to draw a line in the sand.
So I may go to that. I may step up and check it out. And our homecoming game will be on the 16th, so I'll be there.
So will I. I'm going to be part of
I'm
the
a proud
event staff.
Spartan dad. Hey, look, one of the things that I think is pretty intriguing is what you stated at the city council meeting.
Yes.
Now, you just kind of gave us a little bit of history of Haiti. You talked a little bit about the challenges that immigrants have. But what message did you want the city to walk away with after you spoke?
Absolutely. Well, I pretty much I was looking at the mayor directly because I've met the mayor, Alexander, before. Matter of fact, he introduced me at an event where Governor McAuliffe was being endorsed and I was speaking. So I told them, we have a huge Haitian population here because of the military. And there should not be a set of rules for migrants from Afghanistan and Cuba, and another set of rules for immigrants from Africa and Haiti, especially if you're dark skinned. And I told them that, first of all, we want to see Title 42 be repealed. And second of all, we ask that our Black migrants be treated like human beings. That's the most important thing. Even if you're going to deport us, treat us like human beings. Let me tell you this. When I saw those police officers on those horses, I felt like I was looking at Derek Chauvin, not on the neck of a Black man, this time on a horse chasing after his property. That was very traumatic for the Black community, you know? And one of the reasons why I'm speaking forward now, matter of fact, I got a call today from Governor Northam's office because I have been reaching out to them too. And I was given an email address to send to him a request why I want to speak to him face to face. Now, Haitian lives or Black lives. And it is the Black community that made President Biden's win possible. Number one. Number two, we have yet to see the George Floyd Act be passed. We have yet to see the John Lewis Voting Act be passed. And now we have this border crisis. Every Black person in America saw how our people were being treated. We're going to remember this, first of all, during the midterm election and the 2024 election, because again, Haitian lives are Black lives, and no president can win their office without the Black vote. So we need to clean this up. We have to clean this up. We really have to, because it's not looking good for America, and it's not looking good for the administration as we speak. And another thing I also want to say, America's problem is not Joe Biden, it's not Donald Trump, it's not any political party. America's problem is it's a matter of the heart. We need more compassion in this country. We need more understanding in this country, being accepting of different people. We need heart surgery in America. Because as long as we keep blaming one another, this party, that party, we're never going to change, because America is a melting pot. And as soon as we begin to grasp that this is not just a white country, we all come from somewhere. All of us are immigrants here, and we need to really be at peace with that. We can have a set of rules for one group again and another set of rules for other migrants. It doesn't work like that. So
unfortunately, here in America, it does work like that.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to change. And that's explicitly what needs to change. You know, there's an old saying in the Black community, if you're white, you're right. If you're brown, stick around. If you're yellow, you're mellow. But if you're Black, get back. Get back to Haiti.
Wow.
Get back to wherever you come. Don't just, hey, get back. And when I look at America's treatment of Haitians since the 80s, you know, since I started paying attention.
Yes.
And I started paying attention because one of my classmates was of Haitian descent. She was gorgeous. So I started learning a whole lot about Haiti. And of course, in my Afrocentric studies, we studied about Toussaint Louverture and what happened in 1804 and how a lot of the things that happened in terms of the civil rights era had an impact in Haiti. You know, Haiti was funding some of the slave revolts here in the United States of America.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, and of course, that's not something that's popular to talk about. And it's amazing how, and that's, I think, another reason why America continues to turn its back on Haiti, because they would have been really happy to keep things the way they are.
That's right.
In my humble position. So when I say that that's the way it is here in the United States, you know, Joe Biden said, hey, we're a nation of immigrants and everyone get used to it. But then you see his behavior. The behavior,
that's right.
You see the political behavior. And you saw the same thing, you know, with President Trump. And you saw the same thing with President Obama. You saw the same thing with President
Bush.
Name a president.
It's the history. This is not new. This is nothing new. I want to say something that I heard Roland Martin say on his show the other day. He said a lot of Americans don't understand how this country works because, just like you said, I mean, they're talking about going back to your country, but folks don't understand that America works because of immigrants. There are a lot of jobs in America here that native-born Americans would not accept. Like, for instance, the chicken that we love in this country, we all love chicken. Most people who work in those slaughterhouses, in those plants, are migrants from Haiti, from South America, and construction workers. You know, we have to understand that this country works because of immigrants. You know, it's not. There's enough pie for all of us. There's enough pie for all of us.
That's intriguing. But I definitely wanted to ask that question about why you felt so compelled to talk. And I'm glad to know that you possibly have the opportunity to talk with the current governor.
Yes, I hope so. So I'm very persuasive in my words, and that meeting will happen. That meeting will happen. And my main focus will be to remind them. I mean, he's leaving office in November, but for the next administration, I want them to focus on the next election, 2022 and 2024, because again, Haitian lives are Black lives, and our people are going to remember this.
I see that you had a chance to interview the gubernatorial candidate,
Yes.
Terry McAuliffe.
Correct.
So what were your, how do I put this so I can
What was
stay
the discussion
nonpartisan?
about?
What did you walk away with after the conversation with former Governor Terry McAuliffe?
I mean, every candidate, they're going to say what they have to say to get our votes. But I know the governor personally because this is in my book, so there's nothing, I have no shame in sharing this, but there was a time when I experienced homelessness during my senior year at Norfolk State because I ran out of my GI Bill and the VA just would not step up for me. So I met the governor when I was staying at the Vet's House, which is a home for transitional veterans. And when I was there, I managed to get back on my feet. I started teaching and got a new car and got back into my apartment. And that's how I met him. He also spoke at my graduation at Norfolk State. And just meeting him behind the cameras, off the cameras, he's a really, really good man. His goal is, one of his many goals is to increase teacher pay. I was an educator, so I talked to him about that. We talked about the homeless veterans crisis in Virginia, in Hampton Roads. So, and again, because I've experienced it myself, that's a cause that I'm very passionate about. And he's one of those politicians who's willing to listen. He really is. He's a really good guy. He's a really good guy.
Okay, well, he was willing to listen. Do you think he's willing to work for our agenda?
Yes, he is. I read his book, Beyond Charlottesville. If you ever have a chance to check it out, do so, because there were parts in it that made me weep, especially just the way he handled the situation. When Trump embarrassed us, when he went before the mic and said, there are good people on both sides. I don't know if you remember that. Terry McAuliffe had to go behind him and clean that up. That same day, he lost 2 of his pilots. They died in a crash.
Yep.
I mean, he was an exceptional leader during that time in Charlottesville. I mean, and I'm going to give you a couple more examples. He was the one who pushed Obama to speak at the Democratic Convention in 2014, which really put him on the map. And 4 years later, he became president. He was the one who had what is that flag? The Confederate flag removed from Virginia license plate. He hired the very first Black Secretary of State in Virginia, who is now the mayor of Richmond. He has done quite a lot for the Black community. And another thing I'm going to say also, in his book, he's one of those white men who is not afraid to talk about racism in Virginia. He is not afraid to talk about that. And he's very blunt about that in his book. So his heart is in the right place, for sure.
Okay. I'm glad that you were able to speak up once again. Virginians, coming up very soon. We do have a chance. We have 3 opportunities. 3 great choices.
Yes, we do.
The governor of Virginia. So choose well. As this is a part of the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, a nonpartisan organization, I've got to definitely make sure that we put that. There are 3 choices. So make sure that you choose well and ask those hard questions.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely.
Heavily in support of Terry McAuliffe.
That's right.
So
I would love to see him on this platform. In fact, I might text his, because I have his aide's phone number. I'll probably text his aide and say, hey, have you heard about the Brothers Show in Hampton Roads, and just kind of push this up, because I know they have a very busy schedule. When was the last time you talked to his campaign, to his team?
I've been messaging him this week.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll whisper a word in his aide's ear for you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. That. And we appreciate that. So, Brother Conrad, I know you had another question.
Yes,
I
sir.
do have another question. And I just was thinking, as you had mentioned the phrase, or was it Sego that mentioned the phrase that we are a great melting pot of a nation. And I was just thinking, as you guys were discussing, how much greater the melting pot would be if some of the white pieces were more sweet and less salty. But for my next question, I noticed you also spoke on homeless veterans. And I know you're passionate, a great advocate for homeless veterans around the area. So there's many of them in the 757, I assume. So could you just speak on that for us and where your advocacy leads you?
Yeah. So I want to first of all, I want to talk about the Vets House in Virginia Beach. It's a wonderful program that allows homeless veterans to get back on their feet. They have it's a huge house where they check you in. You have your own room, and it's just a place for you to catch your breath, to come up with a plan that we can get back on your feet. I was there for 3 months. This was in July 2016. By September, I was out of there. I had my job. I was teaching already. I had my car, and I had my new apartment. So it's not a place where you go and sit and be comfortable. They push you to, work and get back on your feet. Now, having said that, the VA is a broken system. I mean, they do their best to help veterans, but it's as if they wait. It's like they're waiting for you to fall, and then they try to do something. They don't really have a homeless prevention program like they promised me, because my goal, no one ever plans to become homeless. It just happens. I ran out of my GI Bill. I couldn't find work. My car was breaking down. So finally I said, you know what, God, whatever lesson you want me to get out of this, I'm going to learn it. So I packed my apartment, and I said, if Steve Harvey can be homeless and live in his car for 3 years, I'm going to do it too. And so I lived in my car in my old truck on campus, Norfolk State's campus, for several months. And so eventually I emailed the president, I sent him a letter. I said, listen, sir, I'm a Norfolk State student. I'm a veteran, and I'm living in my car. Can you help me out? And I was afforded room and board at Norfolk State for about a year. And that's how I ended up becoming homeless. But I'm back on my feet now, thank goodness. And so that experience has given me a heart for homeless people. And during this pandemic, I was literally the boots on the ground, driving around Hampton Roads, passing cash, passing out goodies. And if I had enough funds, I will also place them in a motel for a couple of days, just to kind of give them some time to breathe. And that's exactly what you see right there. This was in Norfolk sometime last year. And it was an amazing experience. It's one thing to say you love to help people, but to actually be out there and talking to folks, talking to the cops. When in this particular video, there were people who were sleeping in the underpass, and the cops came to have them removed. And so those guys, I was able to place them in a Motel 6 for about 4 days. So stuff like that, we all can make a difference. We don't have to wait on the government or on the VA to do what we individually can do. And so eventually, because what I started doing was I began posting those videos on my social media, and it caught the attention of Wavy TV 10 and Channel 13. And then eventually the governor saw it, and then we had the conversation you saw on Facebook Live. So that's the story.
Now, I think yesterday I actually watched that interview you had with Governor McAuliffe. Mm-hmm. And toward the end, he was like, hey, if you were governor of Virginia, what would you do or wanted to help that? And I liked your answer.
What did I say?
You wanted to create a homeless version of an Affordable Care Act.
Yes.
Speak on your vision for that.
Mm-hmm. Because I think, let me try to remember how I put it. Because we cannot have an Affordable Care Act without having an Affordable Housing Act. Because if you think about it, a lot of people who experience homelessness, they're also dealing with, first of all, the stress of being homeless, the numbness of it, the shame, the emotional trauma of being homeless is a lot. And so it takes a toll on your body and your mental health. And so if we're trying to have an Affordable Health Care Act, we have to include an Affordable Housing Act, because again, they just have to coincide together. I hope that makes sense to you. If we're going to try to help people get better, we have to include mental health. And if you're broke, if you're sleeping in the streets, if you're having to panhandle, you're sleeping under the bridge, that's going to cause that's a traumatic issue, number one. So we have to put the two together. I hope that makes sense to you.
That does.
Yeah.
I like the idea that it's a government involvement, but also somewhat private on the healthcare sector. Mm-hmm. But we could do the same thing housing wise. So
Yeah.
I like the idea that you mix it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also kind of, since you had mentioned that you thought of that with Terry McAuliffe, have you considered more direct political action yourself, say joining any parties or any groups? And of course, we're going to toot our own horn here, the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, any aims to further community goals?
Oh my goodness. What is that lady who created Shonda Rhimes? Shonda Rhimes, she said, when you're in a position of influence, just say yes to everything. And I'm definitely interested because, you know, I guess I'm an activist. I would be open to joining the Black Caucus. I did check out your website. I think you have an event coming up somewhere late October with the president of HU. I will probably come to that breakfast and check you guys out because I do want to see what's going on out here politically in this area. So yes.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. I'm the chair for the community action team of the Hampton Roads Black Caucus.
Very nice.
You know, we have 4 things that we do. And I'm not talking about the Black Caucus. The Black Caucus really does a lot that's kind of secret, and you know, it's really not known, but it does a lot of work, you know, politically. But the community action team, we focus on 4 things. One is we're creating Black agendas for every city in Hampton Roads. Okay. So housing may be a concern in Norfolk and Suffolk. Yes. Housing is going to be a big concern, particularly for those of us of African descent in Virginia Beach very soon. But it may not be the same concern in Portsmouth. You know, so every city will have its own unique agenda that we're fighting for to improve the entire city with a focus on improving the predominantly Black areas of the city. So we're going to create agendas. We've created agendas and we're pushing them. Second thing that we do is we have watchdogs. So our watchdogs go to the city council meetings and the school board meetings, and we take note of what's happening. We're keeping track of, you know, I live in Virginia Beach in the Green Run-ish area, the Windsor Woods-ish area. So Michael Berlucci is our representative for the city council. And so now we have a list of every decision that he's voted on. You know, the ones that we like and the many that we don't like, you know. And so, you know, we're keeping track, and we're going to make sure that all the citizens in Hampton Roads know about the work of the people that represent them.
That's wonderful. That's really good.
And then the third thing is we have a stream team. The stream team is working towards bringing content to the Hampton Roads area via social media on every 2 weeks at least. And this is one of the stream team activities. This is happening on our website and on our Facebook channel. And Conrad is actually in charge of the stream team. So yeah, you don't have to be Black to be a part of the Black Caucus.
That, you know what? I was thinking that. I was wondering. Yeah. I like that. Very nice to know. This is good to know. I can invite my white friends. Awesome.
Okay, right. And then the last thing that we're doing is, wow, I lost it. Say that again.
No, we'll get it back. Just list them all right back. I think it'll pop up.
Yeah, we'll bring it all back. So we have so those are the things that the community action team are doing, and so we're really pushing to make sure that the sleeping giant in Hampton Roads awakens. You mentioned that you know, President Biden is in office predominantly because of the people of African descent who voted for him, and I said a while ago, you know, the Republicans won't win easily without us, and the Democrats will not be able to win at all without us. So we are the sleeping giant. But unfortunately, we look at political candidates and we look at politicians as either saviors or, you know, superstars. And so we just look up and we gawk them, and no matter what they say, we just fall in love with what they say. So you know, President Biden said, "Hey, we're a nation of immigrants. Get used to it." And then look what he does with our.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
You know, he's but if you're Afghanistanian, is that a word? From Afghanistan, you come over and we're gonna pay you.
That's right.
European, come over, we got a place for you. H1B1, we want to bring in as many people from Asian countries who have the skills we're looking for. Instead of skilling our current Americans, we're going to bring in as many people with skills from the Asian islands and Asian places that we can. So yeah, we're a nation of immigrants unless you're Haitian.
Exactly. Yeah. And
So,
it's not just the Haitians. It's not just the Haitians. It's the Africans.
No, it's not.
Too. It's also the Africans as well too.
Well, the Africans have an easier time than our Haitian brothers and sisters coming over to the United States of America. But you're right. It's the white. You're right. Brown, stick around. Yellow, you're mellow. If you're back, if you're black, you're back.
Wow.
And we've been dealing with that since the initiation of our beautiful country. And what's intriguing is when people like ourselves say, hey, something's wrong and we need to fix it, we get called unpatriotic. You don't really love America. You hate America. Why were these, I had somebody say, why were these people trying to immigrate from Haiti, if America's such a bad place? I'm like, hey, it might be better than where they're coming from, but it's our job to make it better.
That's right.
You can't make it better without fighting for it.
That's right.
But of course, they call us radicals and silly stuff like that. But it's all good. So we would invite you to join with us, work with us, and we're nonpartisan. I know that there's a big stigma that the HRBC is super conservative, but we're nonpartisan. So, I'm independent. Go ahead.
It's okay. I just wanted to kind of sum up what you just said about being called a radical. I remember the title of John Lewis's documentary, Good Trouble. Anytime we try to do something new, anytime we in our history, if we're going to try to let me just put it this way. There's never been a moment in our history, in American history, where change took place without somebody rocking the boat, without somebody, breaking the rules in a way. So we have to start somewhere, and we cannot be afraid of, opposition or being criticized or being talked about. Sometimes you have to walk it alone. Sometimes you just do what you have to do. That way, the generation coming after us can have the chance to be where they are now. I mean, look at what Dr. King, look at what Coretta Scott, look at all these amazing civil rights leaders. And this is one thing I always tell my Caribbean friends. I said, listen, had it not been for the African Americans in this country, if it had not been for what they've done from years ago, we as Black immigrants would not have had the chance we have here. So it's time for us to come together, because I know for sure that historically there's always been tension between African Americans, Caribbean Americans. Because when a cop pulls you over, they don't care about your accent. They don't care about your Haitian or Nigerian accent. They will see a Black person if that cop is racist. So we need to be done away with competing against one another in the Black community, because we truly are one. We really are one. So
absolutely, yeah. That's an interesting discussion. I do want to say, because you brought up John Lewis, and Good Trouble. Just think how American would be in terms of the concerns we have with police overreach.
Wow.
If after Bloody Sunday, we would have prosecuted those officers who abused American citizens who were innocent of crime and were not involved in any criminal activity.
That's right.
And here's the thing. Our Jewish brothers and sisters, they find out that you were involved in the Holocaust. They'll go after you right now, put you on trial. We should find each and every one of those officers, put them on trial right now.
Exactly.
Because they harmed Americans without any just cause. And the unfortunate piece is there were politicians who stood up and clapped for them, who were protecting them. And I say, I love what our Jewish brothers and sisters are doing. And it would be America changing.
Wow.
If we were to do the same thing. But let me get off my soapbox.
That's true. I mean, just real quick note, Germany, they've owned the fact that they messed up. They really have. So America, we're still a very young nation. We're growing. We need to we need to own our mess. We really have to, just like Germany has done. We have to own our mess. And until we do,
well, now you're talking critical racist theory.
Oh my God, let's not get in good trouble.
Brother Conrad, I know we wanted to shout out one of the people who helps pay for this stream. So let's talk about somebody who helps pay for this stream, this activity that we're doing.
A nice local business, Southern Volkswagen. Remember, that is in 1248 South Military Highway in Chesapeake, Virginia. just stop on in, speak with Charlie Roy, get yourself a nice car. Of course, while you still can, we're going into a little bit of a car crunch with this supply chain issues with computer chips and stuff. And new cars are going to get harder and harder to come by over the next year or so. So make sure you stop by 1248 South Military Highway, Southern Volkswagen in Chesapeake. Speak with Charlie Roy. Get yourself a nice car that could last these next couple of years through the car crunch.
Very nice.
Good stuff. Hey, before I tap out,
Yes.
I have to tap out. So I wanted to get your story of writing a book, because that's an entrepreneurial enterprise. So one of the things that the Hampton Roads Black Caucus loves to do is highlight business owners and the strategies and struggles that business owners have used. So this in many ways is HRBC business meetup. So tell us how you wrote the book. And,
well, first of all, I never planned to write a book. I never had a goal to write a book. I don't know how much time we have, but real quick, I came home one night from a church revival, and at that time, I was really just trying to, I guess I was looking for clarity. I was trying to understand my own journey. And so that night I opened up my safe, and in there I had about 5 diaries in it. I had been journaling since I was 19, 20 years old. And I was trying to understand, first of all, how I ended up homeless, how I really ended up in America. And so as I began to read my life from the age of 19 all the way to 2018, I was blown away by my own story. I had written things down, experiences that I, sort of forgotten about. And I began to wonder how many women who have experienced these same things in their lives, but they just didn't have the audacity to talk about them. And so typically when you're writing a diary, you're very blunt, very honest, because you're writing for the eyes of one, yourself. And that's when I decided to turn it into a book. And so it not only just talks about my journey in Haiti, but really it's like a military version of Eat, Pray, Love, because every chapter takes the reader to a different country or different city around the world. Like there's a chapter in Nigeria, in Haiti, in Japan. I have chapters in there in Australia. And so it's a really wonderful book about overcoming challenges. But from the whole writing process, it took me about 11 months. From the beginning to end, editing and deciding on the cover, the title, the back summary. It has been a wonderful and challenging journey. But anybody out there who's watching, and if you have a book in your spirit, in your mind, just get to it, because somebody needs your story. And never I imagined that 20 years later that my book would touch the lives of so many. And I knew I had a gem after reading my book reviews on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And especially after I changed the title, The Cost of the American Dream, it's going to skyrocket. That I know for sure. It's a really, really, really wonderful story. So if you out there, you have a book in mind, number one, believe in your story. Okay. And think about your audience, who are you going to write to, and get to work. And write your book not to make money, but you want to write your book to help change lives. And if God's will for you to be blessed in that way, then let it be. But focus on writing your book to make a difference in somebody else's life.
Awesome. Now,
Yes.
lastly, last prepared question. If you could tell us more about your direct goals that you have for yourself in 2021, and how show viewers can follow you and follow more about you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Conrad. Great question. Well, I saw grad school in the spring, in a couple of months. My focus right now is I'm working on my YouTube cooking show. So right now, honestly, I do have a job, but my real passion, my true passion, is to eventually have a cooking show one day on a much bigger platform. So right now, that is my passion, focusing on teaching culinary education, nutrition education on YouTube. You can find me again on YouTube at Yasmine's Cooking Show. I am also on Facebook under my name, and also on Instagram and Twitter. Yes.
Awesome. And thank you for everything. In fact, it's sort of been like an honor to have you on this.
Oh, it's an honor
Three-part
to be here.
Beach Brothers, HRBC Get On Code show, this great
Yes.
tri-part show. It's been an honor to have you on, Yasmine Charles.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And I do hope that you'll join us beyond just the show, perhaps the group as well, and definitely stay in touch. And perhaps we'll have you on again in the future for any cool updates and partnerships.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Conrad, once again for the wonderful opportunity to talk to you and Mr. What was his name again? I forgot.
Mr. Seiko Varner.
Mr. Seiko, yes. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome so much. And well, I hope you have a great evening.
You do the same. Bye. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Well, that's been it for this great tri-part show of Get On Code and the Hampton Roads Black Caucus and the Beach Brothers Show. I am Conrad Chesminer, and on parts for Seiko Varner and our guest Yasmine Charles. I do hope you all have a great evening tonight, and catch us for another great stream team event for the Hampton Roads Black Caucus as we interview more and more of our local politicians and bring them to you. So stay up with the channel, with the business meetups, the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. Also check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook. Like and subscribe to all that. Make sure you are watching and staying informed. And of course, having a great night.